Against the odds and nearly everyone's expectations, Lance Armstrong wins the 1999 Tour de France.
This is his Tour de France, Tour de Lance.
Far from scaring him straight, a close call with a positive cortisone test seems to prove one thing. In the high-stakes, high-speed world of cycling, it's not just about being the best rider, but the best doper.
Those were dark years. Doping was just massive back then, and it was, the majority of the peloton was doing it.
When it comes down to the preparation or what you're doing or which doctor you're working with, that's the difference between being number one and number two.
His top competitors, if they were using a certain drug or even asked someone about a certain drug, he certainly knew it and asked his doctors about it immediately. He really knew how to figure out what other people were doing, so he would up his game.
Part of the game? Staying ahead of the testers, which is about to get a lot harder. In early 2000, the cycling world hears rumors that a new test is being developed for EPO. According to USADA and some of Armstrong's teammates, Dr. Michele Ferrari and Armstrong have the inside line on the test and devise a way around it.
A lot of people knew how the tests work, but they had the intelligence to be able to say, okay, well, how do we use that information to make sure that I don't test positive?
According to Hamilton, in the summer of 2000, at a discreet beachside hotel in Valencia, Spain, Armstrong, Hamilton, and another postal rider prepare for step one of a blood transfusion.
They would take their own blood out, and then during the tour, they would put it back in, so that gives you extra red blood cells for endurance.
The process of banking one's own blood isn't new, but its use by athletes as a way to artificially enhance performance has been banned since 1986.
Receiving blood transfusions in hotel rooms, that's a really dark place.
After about an hour, bags of warm blood are put into coolers and go into storage. According to Hamilton, a few weeks later, on the 11th day of the 2000 Tour de France, the same three cyclists enter another hotel room, this one near Mont Ventoux, France.
They grab a hanger from the closet and basically hang the blood bags from a picture hook on the wall and sit there on the bed and transfuse the blood.
In less than 30 minutes, the blood they drained in Spain is back in their bodies.
Tyler Hamilton has described it as having this feeling of this cold liquid entering your body.
The riders' bodies, having naturally recreated the blood they lost in Spain weeks before, are now reinfused with trillions more oxygen-carrying red blood cells.
Giving yourself more blood than you've currently got is the single best way of improving performance. EPO takes a long time. A blood transfusion, bang, wow, you're there.
And unlike EPO, doping with your own blood is virtually undetectable. July 13th. 2 days after Armstrong and teammates are allegedly reinfused with their own blood, they set out on a notorious mountain stage of what Armstrong hopes will be his second Tour de France victory.
Every mountain stage that you could finish was basically one step closer to Paris.
Once again, Armstrong makes his move.
Well, look at this then, Armstrong, and they wouldn't have expected that. Ulrich has done nothing about it at all. He saw the speed of the acceleration.
He's chasing just one man on the road, the man who's in the pink jersey of Mercury.
He catches up to one of the sport's greatest climbers, Italian Marco Pantani, who'd been disqualified from an earlier race for irregular blood values.
He's taken a real good look at Marco, almost as saying, the back wheel for you, Marco, jump on if you can.
The men sprint up the 6,000-foot mountain. It's an extraordinary moment.
I don't think anyone would have done that well on that mountain without doping.
Ten days later, Armstrong claims his second Tour de France victory. But once again, he faces doping accusations. He confronts his critics head-on and even uses his celebrity to publicly challenge them in a 2001 ad for Nike.
Everybody wants to know what I'm on. What am I on? I'm on my bike, busting my ass 6 hours a day. What are you on?
Betsy Andreu, wife of cyclist Frankie Andreu, and a former member of Armstrong's inner circle, witnesses his tactics firsthand.
Lance really relied on the media and politicians. He cozied up to politicians and to people in power. And so he built this empire.
When an accusation comes up about doping in his career, those accusations are quickly shut down.
Armstrong is undeniably persuasive.
Why would I take that risk? I have everything I need. I have money, I have contracts, I have a family, I have my family's name. Do you think I want my son to go to high school in 2012 and somebody to say, oh, Luke Armstrong, your dad got busted?
But behind Armstrong's confident denials, teammates say they play a dangerous cat-and-mouse game with the testers.
The world to hear. Have you ever used performance-enhancing drugs?
Of course not. Never. Never. Not once. Cycling has been criminalized and singled out.
Lance Armstrong fights back aggressively against doping accusations. But behind his public denials, teammates say Armstrong and others are engaged in an elaborate and risky system to avoid drug testers. One rider says he helps Armstrong narrowly escape a positive drug test at a 2000 race in Spain.
George Hincapie, Lance Armstrong's right-hand man, actually texted to warn Lance that there are drug testers at the hotel.
According to Hincapie, Armstrong has testosterone in his system and drops out of the race to avoid being tested.
The team ran the program to ensure that they never tested positive by getting advance notice of the test, dropping out of races when they knew that they were hot and would test positive.
Tyler tells a story about a tester comes to the door, and he knows that if he gives a sample, he's going to get to test positive. So he and his wife both literally hit the deck and hide and pretend no one's home, and the tester leaves. But that's how simple it is to evade a test. Just pretend you're not home.
According to USADA, the team also uses other, more scientific ways to avoid positive tests. U.S. Postal Team cyclists say Dr. Ferrari develops new and nearly undetectable ways to administer EPO to the team.
His doctor decided it was better to inject it intravenously rather than just injecting it under the skin.
Injecting smaller amounts of EPO directly into their veins reduces the number of hours EPO stays in the system, which is key when testers are regularly making house calls.
If you took it in the evening, didn't answer the door, the next morning you would be clear.
I passed hundreds of tests when I probably shouldn't have. The time I was riding, we had doctors that were one step ahead of the testers.
At the beginning of the 2004 season, Armstrong and crew appear to be unstoppable.
Remember John Gotti, the Teflon Don. Every time he escaped a conviction, his influence and power grew within the Mafia because they all believed he would never, ever be convicted. Lance had sort of that aura that no one was going to ever be able to catch him.
One win away from a record-setting 6 Tour de France wins, Armstrong is living the life of an international icon, complete with a rock star girlfriend, Sheryl Crow.
He and his brand just got bigger and bigger and bigger.
Through his cancer awareness charity, Live Strong, he's become one of the nation's most visible philanthropists.
My friend, a true champ, a great American, Lance Armstrong.
But all that money and all that fame teeters on a great lie. According to the USADA report, every single one of his Tour de France wins has been fueled by either testosterone, EPO, or blood transfusions. It's a secret he's determined to protect.
Lance Armstrong is two people. He's a person who was beloved and who was very charismatic. And there's a dark side of Lance Armstrong, and ruined many lives and intimidated people and ruined careers.
Accusations, leaks, and threats are met with a swift counterattack by the Lance Armstrong machine.
We're sick and tired of these allegations, and we're going to do everything we can to fight them. They're absolutely untrue. We filed action in England. We filed action in France against everybody involved, and enough is enough.
There wasn't a whole lot of in-between with Lance. You were either with him or for him, or you were against him.
At the 2004 Tour de France, Italian cyclist Filippo Simeoni finds out what it's like to be up against Armstrong. Simeoni first lands on Armstrong's hit list in 2002 when he testifies against Armstrong's friend and consultant Michele Ferrari in a trial that convicts Ferrari on sports fraud.
Lance, in turn, went after him. He went out to crush him.
The conviction is later overturned. But according to USADA, as far as Armstrong is concerned, Simeoni has done the unthinkable. He's broken cycling's unwritten law of omerta.
Nobody speaks out. Nobody speaks out. Everybody, takes the secrets. You're expected to take the secrets to the grave.
At the 2004 Tour de France, the war of words between Armstrong and Simeoni escalates. During the 18th stage, Simeoni sprints away from the peloton to join a breakaway group. Armstrong, already well ahead in overall time, risks his own standing in the Tour by wasting precious energy to chase him down.
I've never seen this. As Simeoni looks over his shoulder and says, I can't believe it, I've got Lance Armstrong with me.
It's unprecedented that the yellow jersey, the race leader, would attack this late in the race and on such an inconsequential stage.
Armstrong pressures Simeoni to fall back from the breakaway group. In a stunning nod to Armstrong's power and influence, Simeoni obeys. Then, cameras catch Armstrong's final handmade message, apparently referencing Simeoni, "Zip your lips."
That stands out to me as one of probably the ugliest moments I've seen in sports.
He's a bully. He had a lot of power within the peloton.
And it appears Armstrong will go to great lengths to protect that power and eliminate his competition, even if it's an old friend. Lance's former teammate, Tyler Hamilton, now racing for the Phonak team, is one of Armstrong's biggest challengers at that same Tour de France.
Tyler's a favorite. Tyler has experience. He has the knowledge that he had a big year last year.
I wanted to stay on the right side of the Lance Armstrong camp because I knew once I got on the wrong side of that fence, he was going to make my life tough.
Hamilton says that after a pre-tour race, he is called in for questioning by the International Cycling Union, the UCI, about a suspect drug test.
He'd been kind of put on notice by the UCI that he'd had some unusual results.
He is shocked to hear from another cyclist, Armstrong confidant Floyd Landis, that it was Armstrong himself who ratted out Hamilton to the UCI.
Lance has this kind of warped sense of honor. He wasn't above turning in, ex-teammates and rivals when it suited his purposes.
It's a scare, but Hamilton is told not to worry and to keep racing. It's not just the competition. Armstrong's own teammates who don't get with the program also feel at risk, including his good friend, Frankie Andreu.
Before the '99 Tour, Lance chides Frankie for having a bad attitude, not being a team player, being arrogant, which was all code for, you're not doing what it takes. Lance brought it up again in 2000. It's time for you to get serious. Those were the words he used to see Ferrari.
While he is using all these drugs, intimidating people, people still saw Lance Armstrong as their hero. Millions and millions of people wore his yellow bracelets because he was their inspiration, and they just could not see the other side.